Good morning. Well, welcome to AARP Illinois' special virtual event featuring Dr. Sheila Boozer. I'm your host, Teresa Jones, Associate State Director of AARP Illinois, and we are absolutely thrilled to have my friend, Dr. Sheila Boozer, here with us today. But before we dive into our discussion, let's learn more about our remarkable guest. Now, Dr. Sheila Boozer is a lifelong resident of Springfield, Illinois. Dr. Boozer is a graduate of Ursuline Academy. She has her bachelor's in psychology and an elementary education certification from the University of Illinois Springfield. She earned her master's in education administration from Eastern Illinois University and an education specialist degree in educational leadership and policy from UIS. She has her doctorate degree from Illinois State University. Dr. Boozer is the first Black woman to serve as superintendent of the Champaign Unit 4 School District. Dr. Boozer was the first Black principal at Lanphier High School from 2008 to 2010 and at Black Hawk from 2010 to 2014 and Fairview Elementary from 2002 to 2007. These are all elementary schools. Sheila was also the first Black director of teaching and learning in Springfield, District 186, but her greatest roles are being wife to her husband, Lance, mother to 3 adult children, and most recently, she was blessed to add to that list another title, grandmother. She is the grandmother. She is the proud grandmother of 2 little babies. She is the proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Now, let's get into our discussion, Sheila. You don't mind if I call you Sheila, do you?
Of course not. That's who I am.
That's who you are. Great. Well, welcome, and thank you again for joining us today. So as the kids say, let's do this thing.
All right now.
So, Sheila, you've been a teacher, a principal, director of teaching and learning and technology for School District 186. What motivated you to want to be an educator? And can you share a bit about your journey from Springfield to Champaign, where you are presently serving?
Yes. I can just remember as a kid always playing school. I loved school. I loved going to school. I loved learning. And so I always wanted to be a teacher. And I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I was born to be a teacher because, I guess being the firstborn and being the oldest, they say I was a little bossy anyway. So, I figured I might as well get paid for that, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't go right into the teaching field as I knew I was supposed to. I went to college for a little bit. I ended up going into mortgage banking for some time and start making a little bit of money. And I didn't want to go back to school, but I wasn't satisfied. And it really makes a difference when you're doing something that is satisfying to you. And that's something that you're passionate about. And mortgage banking and I were not passionate for each other. So I decided, I told my husband at the time, Lance, we've been married, it'll be 34 years this year. And he knows me extremely well, but he knew I wasn't happy. And he's like, go ahead and go back to school, do what you were called, what God ordained you to do. And so I did. I went back to school, did my student teaching indicator, came back to Springfield, taught in Springfield Public Schools for a while, then went into administration. And I just love being around the children and helping to change the trajectory of their lives, being around the teachers and being a part of all that. It just gave me life. It breathed life into me. And then I love the fact that I was able to pour life back into others. I knew that I wanted to do more with what God blessed me to do. And I wanted to be the role model that my daughters and my son, for that matter, could look up to and say, hey, that's my mom. She's doing what she knows she's supposed to do. Being effective in the work just drove me. It gave me passion, watching the little eyeballs light up, so to speak, when the children were learning, being around teachers and helping them to hone their craft and to be the best that they could possibly be. Because, being a teacher is a high calling. It is the one role, the one profession that because of teachers, everyone else exists. And it's also the one role that I don't think gets enough credit. I don't think it gets enough props or respect. And so I want to be a part of something that I believe is respectful and respectable and makes a difference. Well, during my time in Springfield, I was in Springfield for 23 years, and it was hard to leave my family, my work family, my natural family. But God called me to do something that I didn't think I ever really was going to do, even though I had the credentials to be a superintendent. I had those credentials for about 12 years before I said, okay, let me do this. And so the Champaign position came open, and I had several people say to me, this is a place I think you need to check out. And sometimes you don't want to hear things because it doesn't really fit with your vision.
Mhm.
And I was very satisfied in Springfield. Loved everyone, loved what I did. Um, my reputation precedes itself. I love my Springfield 186 family. But when this position came open, and they had Champaign had a anti-racism resolution where they declared racism as a public health crisis. They had gone into creating an amazing strategic plan, and so I thought this really resonates with me. This sounds like who I am and the work that I want to do. So I went ahead and I threw my name in the hat, and thinking, nah, I'm not going to get anything. This is just, I'll do it. So people told me to do it. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. And here I sit.
And here you sit.
Yeah.
Here you sit.
This is year 3. And I'm not going to say it's been easy, but it has been rewarding. I love the work. It's difficult. It's hard work, but it's also heart work. And that's what I have to lay my hat on.
It's hard work. I like that.
It's hard work.
Yeah. So as I mentioned in your introduction, you are the first Black woman to serve as superintendent of the Champaign district. So does that come with an added pressure, or do you feel like more people are looking to see what you're going to do in this position?
Most definitely. First of all, being the first in anything is very difficult because for me, my mantra is I don't want to just be the first, and I don't want to be just the only. Being the first is powerful, but it's also you go through the imposter syndrome. I know I do. Do I really belong here? Do I really belong to sit in this seat? And then you have to talk to yourself. There's a lot of self-talk, and there is added pressure because when I got to Champaign, the data shows that our children, the most marginalized children, are Black students, not performing well at all. So when you come in and you see that, and you're Black, and you say, "Oh my goodness," there's a pressure of how do I let everybody know I'm not here to tear anyone down. Mm-hmm. I'm here to be a part of this work. I know that the greatness is in this district. We just got to rearrange everything and make sure that I pour into my staff, and in turn they pour into our students, and then also bring the voices of our parents to the table. But it's very difficult when you're new to a place. Not from Champaign, transplant here. So getting people to know who I am. People think they know me, but you really don't know who I am. Mm-hmm. And that's the hard part. You may know me, but you really don't have an idea of who I am and where I came from and what I want to bring to the table. So I always tell my young people and those who ask, I don't want to be the only. I want to leave Champaign better than when I found it. Mm-hmm. And that just means moving in the right direction, because it's great just moving in the right direction and putting all the pieces together so that the next person who comes along that looks like me, they won't have to struggle to find their voice and to find their place. And that's the part for me that's very difficult. Finding my voice without drowning out the others, and being seen as I am a part of this community. I left everything I knew in Springfield. My husband and I, we moved here to Champaign, and trying to find that place has been very difficult, but it's also worth it.
Well, we're going to talk about some of that just a little bit later.
Okay.
So looking ahead, what do you envision for the future of African Americans in Champaign? And what role do you see the education community playing in shaping that future?
That's a really good question. There are so many African American, Black people, educators, people in the community, organizations doing awesome things in Champaign. But I also want us to come together and be united, and speak with one voice, saying that we want better than what we have. I believe our students deserve to have their voices heard. I believe our students need to have every educational barrier removed. I believe our students deserve educational and instructional excellence. And these are all things that are part of our strategic plan. I just want that strategic plan to come to life. That means we have to do things that are different than we've done in the past. And it's okay. Because for me, if we lift up those who have not been traditionally lifted up, it means the whole system lifts up. That means our whole community gets better. It means it empowers those. We shouldn't always have to have the haves and the have-nots and things of that nature. It shouldn't be that way. There's enough for everyone. And I believe the people here in Champaign have exactly what it takes to make it happen. I'm surrounded by some amazing people who want to see Champaign Unit 4 School District succeed. And that just means our students understand that the school setting is for all of them, not just a few, but for all of them, no matter what your background is, no matter if your parents come from money or don't come from money, no matter if your parents have degrees, if they don't have degrees, the school system, city of Champaign is for everyone. And we want to make it be that way. And I believe I was sent here, not by me, by God, to be a part of this amazing transformation. I see it. And I know it's going to happen, and we're in the middle of it now.
So you touched on some of this, but I think we're going to go maybe just a little bit deeper here. So education plays a crucial role in fostering equity.
Yes.
So how do you think the education system can be improved to provide an equitable opportunity for all students, regardless of their background?
I think that, Teresa, you got some good questions here. I think if we look at it from a social justice lens, and look at it and have an ongoing student-centered mind, that we can explore and examine and assess things from a different lens, from a lens of, are we doing what's best for students, or are we doing things that make us comfortable? Are we afraid to challenge the status quo? And if the answer to those questions are, I'm afraid to do these things, we're never going to get anywhere.
That's some good stuff.
But if we can just say, how can I help our children of color, as particularly our Black children of color, see themselves, situate themselves in a greater piece of what's going on in the world, let their voices be heard, hear their ideas, let them know that the schools belong to them, give them some hope. That things don't have to stay the way they are, and that they are valued. We see you, we value you, we love you, we appreciate you, we want to lift you up, we want to pour into you. Things will change, and I know it will. So sometimes I have to ask myself, do my teachers, do the community, do I really know who I am serving? Do I know my students? Do I know where they're coming from? Do I know what makes them tick? Do I understand the trauma that they have felt? And do I help them rise above that trauma? Just because we've experienced trauma doesn't mean we have to stay there. And we don't have to let that define who we are. And if we can get to that point, oh my goodness, Teresa, things in the educational system will change for the betterment. And if you stop and think about it, how education was designed and set up in the first place, it wasn't for us.
Right.
It wasn't for Black people. But we are here. And we deserve better than what we've been getting across the world and across the country in the educational system. It's for those who see that and know that and embrace it. We're going to take this thing to the next level, and we're going to see great things. And I see it. I see glimmers of it throughout the school system here. We've got some amazing students doing some amazing things. And it's not just athletics. They're student athletes. They are scholars. They are avid students. They are students who know who they are. We just have to continue to give them the platform to rise above their current situations and their circumstances.
I kind of chuckled when you said not just athletics, because many times I think that people, they don't look at us in the educational aspect. They look at us in the sports arena.
Yes.
But you have touched on some excellent points. And, they're very fortunate to have you at District 4. It's not just in Champaign that we need to hear this. We need to hear this in all schools. So I'm hoping that through your message here, that some people will be listening and take it to heart what you're saying, because I will say, and not just because you're my friend, but I feel like they are very blessed to have you.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. I tell you that all the time anyway. So, but in your journey as a civic and community leader, what advice do you have for individuals seeking success, particularly young African Americans?
Oh, wow. That's good. I will say, I'll start with my son, and I'll say this about him, and then I'll move into that answer that. As my son was growing up, being a young Black male in America has had its moments, and I'm just going to leave it there. So I always would tell my son, because even though I have two daughters and they're older than him, they seem to really move in the direction and know where they wanted to go. But I would watch him sometimes kind of struggle, trying to figure it all out. Then it hit me one day. He is just like you. Sheila, your son is just like you. And I had to think about that, because sometimes you shout, you shy back a little bit. You don't want to let people to see the greatness that's within you or the excellence that's in you. So I saw that in him. And so I finally started saying to him, every time he had anything going on, before he would leave to go to school, before he leave to go to do anything he had to do, and mind you, phenomenal athlete and a fantastic scholar. So he put student into athlete. So I'm very proud of him in that regard. But I used to say to him, don't be afraid to be excellent, because I had to pour that into him. Know who you are. Be fearless with who you are. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. Don't walk in that imposter syndrome, because that thing is real. You belong in every room, in every area, at every table that you find yourself. And I tell my daughters the same thing. So for those who want to go on and to be successful, and success is how you define it. Don't let someone else tell you if you're successful or not. It's how you see yourself and how you value what you're doing. So I would tell my daughters, look, whatever you want to do, you go and do it. But you do it and you bring your authentic self.
Yes.
And that's the hardest part that has been for me, to be my authentic self. And so if I can't be who I am, then I can't be a part of this. I'm talking to whoever's listening. If you can't bring yourself to the table without people telling you how to look, fix your face, you're defensive, or trying to attack your integrity, then you don't need to be a part of that. Being successful is knowing who you are in spite of all the noise that's going on around you. Know who you are. Don't be afraid to do something different. Don't be afraid to come out of your comfort zone, because sometimes our comfort zone is designed to keep us back. And had I not got away from my comfort zone, I wouldn't be sitting in this seat in Champaign right now as a superintendent. And I would not be able to have an impact on those that I don't even know about. Sometimes people come to me and say, thank you. And I'm like, what are you thanking me for? Thank you for being you.
Yeah.
And so when you hear those kind of things, it hits you in your heart. It's like, oh, wow. So my best advice is don't be afraid to be excellent. Continue to be your authentic self, and do not let your fear of the unknown trap you from moving forward.
Those are some fantastic points. And I've always known you as an encourager. You've always been an encourager in my life. So, and the lives that you touch, they're just, whether they know it or not, they've got a strong blessing around them. So saying that, it leads me into this next statement and question for you.
Yes.
I have known you for some 30 something years, and I've always known you as a strong, and I emphasize that word, strong woman of faith. So, but how do you navigate the intersection of faith and education in your work?
Wow. Well, for me, the two, I can't separate the two. So navigating them is crucial, because first and foremost, I'm a child of God. And I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have all the things that I have. I wouldn't have accomplished what I've accomplished if it had not been for him giving me the strength, giving me the vision, gifting me with what he gifted me with to do what he's called me to do. It's not about me, and that's what keeps me going. All the decisions that I make, I seek him. Even in my secular world, in my everyday job, who can say that they actually get paid to do something they love to do?
Yeah.
That's how I say, God, I thank you. But I keep in mind, you don't have to go thumping people across the head with the Bible and the word. It's your life, the life that you live. That's how I navigate this. People know I sometimes get emails from families and parents and community members who'll say, I can tell there's something about you, and I know what it is. You are a child of God. And I just smile and I say, thank you, because it's true. I don't have to run around and tell people that's who I am. And I just make my decisions based upon what's best. And what would God have me do? Would God be pleased in my decisions? Sometimes some of the decisions are very hard, and I have to go to him and say, Lord, I need you to guide me through this. I need you to give me the strength to endure this. I need direction. So making sure that I don't speak too quickly. God, give me wisdom. And that's my prayer. Give me wisdom to lead, wisdom to keep my mouth closed when I need to, and the wisdom to speak when you would have me to speak.
Yeah, that's excellent. I had told someone the other day, I said, when a lion goes into the forest, he doesn't have to roar in order for others to know that he's a lion. And that's the same for you. Like you said, you don't have to say this and that and the other for people to know whose you are and the life that you lead. There's no doubt about it. So we're going to talk a little bit more about some navigation in your life. So in your experience, how do you navigate challenges and resistance when advocating for change in the educational process? And what advice do you have for those facing similar obstacles?
You have to know who you are and what you stand for and what you will and will not tolerate. Since I've been here, I've had challenge after challenge. And those challenges were here before I got here. And one of the questions you asked me earlier was, was it difficult being the first Black in this role? And I'm going to go back to that as I answer this question, because the answer is yes. Because I am Black, I think and I know there are things people expect me to do that no one else would do. And I have to ask myself, Lord, why is that? And sometimes I think it's because people want to set you up for failure. And then I think, well, is that what it is? Or is it my time? And I ask myself a lot of times, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? Things have been going on in this world, in this country for a long time that have been inequitable. We deal with racism on a daily basis. Some of it is very outright, and some is hidden and subtle. The microaggressions. So trying to understand how I navigate these challenges, that's again, it keeps me on my knees, asking God, what would you have me to do? And then making sure I connect to the people who are around me, who know the history of how things got to be where they are. Making sure that I hear the voices of those who don't look like me, but understanding where they're coming from and where perhaps some of their discomfort or their fears may lie. But whatever it happens to be, I cannot be afraid to say this has to change, because if it doesn't change, then our school systems will not get better. Our country will not get better. And I know people say our children are the future. Our children are our right now. They see us right now. And I watched, as a matter of fact, when the George Floyd murder happen.
Mm.
Watch the young people rise up, high school students rise up to make their voices heard and to do something different. And when the children speak, we better listen because they have a lot to say. And sometimes they can give us a different perspective than what we're expecting to hear from them because sometimes all we know is what we know. They're not afraid to try something different.
Right.
So if I'm going to be an example and a role model for them, then I need to listen to them. What do they want? And how can I be a part of the change if I don't know what our children need and want? I can't keep doing things to them. I want to do things with them. And so they pour into me and I pour back into them.
Well, and we've heard that verse about and a child will lead them.
Yes.
So, yeah, very applicable. So, Sheila, talking about all these things, leadership, it often involves collaboration. So, how do you foster partnerships and collaboration with other teachers, principals, organizations, and or even your community leaders to amplify the impact of your initiatives?
Collaboration is very key. As a matter of fact, I am a collaborative leader. I'm a transformational leader, and I'm a collaborative leader. And in order to transform, you have to have collaboration because it can't just be my ideas, my thinking, my way, because that will never work. Because I don't know everything, and I don't pretend to know everything. I love to talk to other people, to hear their perspective and to know where we're going and how to bring all the voices to the table. Because one of the things I love to do is bring voices to the table, put the chair at the table and make sure the chair is not broken. Because I want to make sure your voice is heard so that we can do what needs to be done. So with my teachers, I make myself visible in the schools. And I walk around schools all the time and I talk to students and I talk to teachers, but purposefully getting the teachers together at least once or twice a month. The teachers have a 2 hour early dismissal so they can come together and collaborate with each other. We also have time where all the principals come together 4 times a month. So we do it in a full day of professional development with all the principals where they're collaborating and working together, and they bring 1 or 2 of their teachers or instructional coaches together so that they can all work together. Because what we're doing is we're trying to make that strategic plan come to life. And we're looking at data, talking about what's working, what's not working, how can we do things better. We also have time when we bring all the administrators together for a couple of hours and we share and we talk. I want to hear from them. We have a thing we call What's Up Wednesdays, where we do a virtual conversation with all of our principals and we tell them what's coming down the pike or whatever, or for the most part, we'll give them something or a situation and say, hey, help us think through how we can make this better. What do you need from us? Or they'll send us questions in advance and then we'll prepare for them and try to answer their questions. And if it's not going to work, they tell us why. And then we go, okay, well, let's try something different. Not everything is always that easy. Sometimes I have to just say, okay, I heard what you need. I've heard what you said, but we have to figure out a way because we have boundaries and, things we have to follow.
Right.
But how can we make this a win-win, so to speak? I also have coffee with Dr. B in the community from time to time. We have the next thing we're working on is going to different areas in Champaign and actually speaking and talking to our community. Here's the state of Unit 4. Give us some ideas, some thoughts. Where are you going with this, and how can you help us? As a matter of fact, we're having transportation issues. Just as most districts across the country, trying to figure out how to get bus drivers and get kids to school on time and things of that nature. So we're going to have to probably bring in some community members, some parents and teachers and some administrators to talk about what can we do? How can we address the situation? And again, this was here before I got here.
Yeah.
Our district is growing. So we have more and more students who are riding buses now than ever before. So how can we address this? I have standing meetings with different community members. We have coffee. I'm part of the community foundation, the Champaign Urbana Foundation. I participate on a number of boards and go and speak, and we talk about what's going on in our school district, and I hear from people in the community, what can they do? So I have standing meetings and conversations. People often call me and say, hey, can I come in and get on your calendar, and can we talk about some different things that are happening? And that's how we do it. I don't have all the answers. I will make mistakes, but it all comes from trying to do what's best. And I'm not afraid to try something. And if it doesn't work, okay, next, how can we do something different? So I welcome the voices. I love the collaboration, and I love it when people come with ideas and suggestions and not coming to be confrontational and combative. That doesn't help. But when you open the door for a collaborative conversation, that's what changes things. Conversations.
Well, you answered my next question, but just so that our audience knows and pays attention to what you said previously here, I was going to ask, what key qualities or skills do you believe are essential for effective leadership, and particularly in the realm of education and equity? And I think you pretty much summed that up here, which I thank you for that already. So we're going to go on, and this will be our last question. This just not enough time, I'm telling you. So for individuals who are inspired to make a difference, but may feel overwhelmed, even scared to start a new career in life, what practical steps can they take to initiate positive change in their life or community? And I'm going to just kind of add to that, like an A clause or B clause here. Like I said, I've known you a long time, and I remember when you started your educational journey. Mm-hmm. I remember sitting on the couch in your house on 11th Street. That takes you back, doesn't it?
It does. Yes, it does.
So tell me, because, and not that you are late in life by any means, but but it's the fact that you started a new career, mm-hmm. And I'm sure you were overwhelmed. You had small children at home, mm-hmm. So just tell us a little bit about that.
As I said earlier, I knew teaching was in my blood, and so when you run and try to do something different, the passion is just not there. Mm. You have to follow your passion and follow your heart. Can I be honest? When my children were little and I was in mortgage banking, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. Right. I hated it. I would sometimes look and see which one of the kids was going to be sick that day because I just didn't want to go to work. I'm like, this is not it. This is not feeding my soul, that's not feeding my spirit. I don't feel like I'm doing anything to make a difference in this world. And so my husband, like I said, I love that man. He is my rock. He's my covering. I couldn't do this without him. And God knew exactly what I needed in my life and who I needed in my life. Doors began to open. So I went back to school, came out of my comfort zone. And I'm like, oh my goodness, they're making me drive all the way to Decatur to do student teaching. And that was the first thing for me. I had to conquer that fear. I hadn't driven on the highway by myself. So I'm like, oh Lord, okay. That was the first thing. Okay. I knew I had to do something different. I was not happy. If you're not happy, if you're not passionate, if you don't wake up in the morning and go, I get to do this, then you need to really see it, check yourself and say, am I doing what I've been called to do? Am I walking in my purpose? Am I on the journey that I'm supposed to be on, that's going to make a difference and it's going to fulfill me? And if I'm fulfilled, it helps me fulfill others. And, just looking at my daughters, I want them to know you can do what you want to do. And I remember the board meeting when I became a principal for the first time, and my oldest daughter now is a principal in Springfield as well. The only one following in my footsteps, and I have to say, she's going to surpass me. She is brilliant, but yes, all of my children are brilliant, but they're brilliant in their own areas. She looked at me during that meeting, and she looked up at me and she said, Mom, I want to be just like you one day. That melted my heart because I was actually doing what I wanted to do and I was passionate about, and she could see it and sense it and feel it. So don't be afraid to be excellent, people. Don't be afraid to step out and try something different. And if it doesn't work, then you just say, I tried. but you will never know if you don't try. You'll be angry with yourself for the rest of your life and having that self-doubt if you don't try what it is that you know you were designed and purposed to do.
Yeah, okay, that's like drop the mic stuff, okay? So, but you're right. All your children are brilliant, and your daughter is one of your daughters is following in your footsteps, and she is just as lovely as you are. And she is a you. She's a mini you. She looks like you. But I just thank you. I thank you for your time. I thank you for sharing your insights and your experiences, Dr. Boozer. We just appreciate your time and the valuable contributions that you're continuing to make to the Champaign community and Illinois. And to our audience, we thank you for joining us for this enlightening conversation. Remember that the power to create positive change lies within each of us. Let's continue this dialogue and work together for a more equitable and just future. Please join us next week for another engaging conversation. We'll be speaking with Dr. Jacqueline L. Newman, Executive Director of Springfield Housing Authority, and how she worked her way from clerk typist to Executive Director. And once again, Dr. Boozer, thank you, and thank you all for joining AARP Illinois today. We look forward to continuing our mission of supporting seniors, caregivers, and the entire aging community in Illinois. If you would like more information on AARP's upcoming virtual events, please visit aarp.org/Illinois. Thank you, and thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day, and this concludes today's virtual event.
Thank you.